Hello, beautiful people. This is episode 17 of the Live Life Goldyn Show, and I have an extremely special guest today that I am super excited about. This is my daughter, Kaylee Duffy.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
So excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. We've been trying to do this for a little while.
We have, definitely.
Yeah. So timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about a lot of good things today. Kaylee is one of my greatest manifestors. All of my kids are really good manifestors. Kaylee just takes it to another level, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
And I think it's extreme contrast that you've created, that you've, I don't know, I guess it's like your soul's path, just to have a lot of contrast.
Yeah, all through life experience and learning and growing and all that.
Yeah.
Staying grounded, staying clear to my vision.
Absolutely, which has really been really awesome to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where you want to start this story. I could start with you being my second born. And when I got pregnant with Kaylee, her sister was 7 months old. So that was intense. So it was an intense pregnancy for me. And then she was upside down. So coming into the world, I feel like
coming into the world upside down.
Coming into the world upside down. And so that created a lot of contrast. And in our life too, we were, newly married. We were a month married when I got pregnant with you. And, already having a baby, I was 20 years old. So I feel like there was a lot of contrast when you came in. So that could explain a lot too.
Yeah, that's a good perspective.
So I don't know where you want to start. We definitely have had our challenges in our relationship, but we have worked so hard to be where we are today, and it's a beautiful place.
Definitely. I think, growing up was definitely really hard for me. A lot of it was just emotions that were at a really young age tried to be fixed with drugs and alcohol instead of actually getting like real help that I needed for them. And having, a mom that would tell you that I was broke because I said I was broke, or I was unhappy because I said I was unhappy, and I was like a teenager and I was crawling out of my skin, and I'd be like, oh, like shut up. And then it really took like life experience and kind of being like miserable enough to change to get to the point where I started, number one, meditating, and number two, just visualizing what I want and really just bringing all of my manifestations into light by starting to stick up for myself and really keeping my vision clear on what I want.
Yeah, I think you realized your power in all of it, when you because you're a powerful creator. And I think in the past you've created somewhat negatively, but through they say like there's a way of manifesting through chaos. So if you're that type of person who you have to wait until it gets really bad to manifest, you manifest big, but you're manifesting in the face of a lot of like crap, and it's not really that fun. So I think as you cleaned up your relationship with alcohol, you really cleaned up a lot of your manifestation abilities as well.
Right. And I think that watching how everything kind of fell into place for me in certain different ways before I even cleaned up my relationship with alcohol was like, wow, I can be this powerful. So I need to get rid of everything that's in the way of that so that I can be even more powerful and manifest exactly what I want. And definitely growing up, I would stress so hard about uncontrollable situations that I had no control over. And I would stress and I would stress and I would make myself sick. And then realizing one day that everything always works out for me was really the game changer, because everything always works out for me no matter what. Even if something that happens is really bad, it's leading to something really good. So being able to wake up to that realization has helped my life so immensely, because it's like if something happens, it's like, well, this sucks, but this is happening for a reason. And this is getting me somewhere better. Yeah. So that's really been like the life-changing realization in my manifestations, because I don't add resistance to the negativity any longer. I just let it go. I let it play out. I meditate on it, and I just let it unfold the way that it needs to.
Well, and I think that, also for the first time in your life, you've kind of dealt with your emotions. Like, I feel like you've always been a super sensitive, very empathic person.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even when you were little, we used to have to like put you in your room after a party because you would get so overwhelmed. And I see some of that in your daughter as well, that there's just like a sensitivity to energy.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why you drank and why you did things like that, because you're so sensitive to energy that you have to do something to manage it. And I think that's why all people do drugs and alcohol, because they've got a fast moving stream. Like you came in here with a fast moving stream. And so they have to find a way to manage that. And unfortunately, a lot of people choose drugs and alcohol, but that also could be the thing that catapults them into a situation like you, like a massive spiritual awakening, which is what I think you just did.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, I was going to ask about that.
Okay, what's going on? There we go.
Okay. We almost lost connection.
Okay, we're back.
We manifested it back.
And we're back.
I think that, like we're told that we need drugs and alcohol to have fun in life. So a lot of my life was that. And then being alcohol free, realizing how high anxiety situations or high populated environments actually are not my thing, not my jam. And I just never knew that before. I was always out and about. I was out every night. I love to be out. And it's like, actually, no, that's not me. I'm almost 28 years old and I'm finally figuring out that I actually love to just be home and I love to be in my own energy when I'm feeling that way.
Right. Which is like huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah. And there's no realization when you're in the midst of alcohol and partying and things like that, because you're just like, oh, I need people around me. And that's also part of the emotional mechanism of trying not to deal with your emotions, is I have to keep moving or else I'm going to have to feel these yucky feelings that I'm feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had to, drink wine every night, even if it wasn't for emotional reasons or just boredom or like, I'm a single mom, I deserve this or whatever.
Yep.
When nighttime is actually the time that I'm able to reflect and feel things. And actually nighttime is when I have my greatest inspirations and my best ideas, but I never knew that before because it was always masked with this chemical toxin. So it's been really cool to see that all and getting to the point where my manifestations are pretty instant. And knowing that if it's not instant, then I still have things that need to unfold in the moment. So just enjoying that and being present in where I'm at in life and knowing that everything that I want will manifest accordingly. And when it happens, it's going to be worth all the waiting.
Well, and it's not even like waiting. So you just said a really interesting thing, which is like the joy in the journey. And that's one of the things that I feel really passionate in teaching people is, it's not, I'm going to be happy when. It's like, I'm going to be happy now because being happy now means this moment right here is precious. And I think that's one of the things that I've recognized from drinking is that you are not ever in the present moment.
Ever.
And like time goes really fast. There's been a lot of things that I've had awareness about with it. Time goes really fast. You're not really that present. You're not really in that high vibration of joy. You think you are because alcohol changes your state, right? Like that's the whole point of drinking alcohol, is it changes your state. And this is not like you have to give up alcohol forever talk.
No.
This is just like awareness about your relationship, which I've studied over the last, 5 or 6 years. So it changes your state and you think that it's making you feel better. But the truth is there's a cap to it. And the other part of that is tomorrow morning, you're going to be even lower than you were when you were trying to change your state. So because it's a depressant.
Yeah. Like, why are we ingesting like a depressing substance to have fun? That will always be the question. But in, like society wants us to be sick. So that's really where we're at with that. But yeah, being present in moments and really realizing what I've missed out on life. Because if you're with a bunch of people, say this weekend I was out on a boat, you're with a bunch of people, you're on a boat, you're drinking, you're having fun. When you think back about it the next day, you're like, yeah, that was so fun. But can you recall the memories? Can you recall the moments? Can you recall those simple little joys that make you, like, thinking about it gives me chills, all the simple little moments that I had that were so joyful that I was fully present and aware for, that I've had so many times in my life that weren't like that. They were fuzzy. And I don't want memories to be like that. I want my memories to be fully present. And life is so much fun and life is so joyful, and I don't need anything that's going to numb my senses to make that come to light for me. And obviously it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of deep diving. It takes a lot of, what do I need to do for myself so that I don't want to be numb any longer? But really, I always say the present is in the present moment.
Right.
And it's just so true, because it's just, being in the present brings me so much joy, especially with my daughter.
So one thing that I'm wondering, and I don't even know if you can really answer this, but because I've watched your journey, and I watched you give up alcohol a few times, for 30 days because we were doing cleanses or whatever. But when you made that decision, like, what was going on around that time? Because you flipped a switch because I'm on groups, like alcohol-free groups. 1 Year No Beer is one that I would highly recommend if you're looking to stop drinking. Just because it's on my feed. So it's awareness, right? It's awareness
Right.
of other people's struggles. And this is in London. I think they're based. I don't know where he is now, but it's all over the world where people, and especially London, Ireland, like so much alcohol struggle, like, because they go out every single night, till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they drink, even on work nights. So the awareness that I've seen on those pages, people are constantly resetting,
Yes.
constantly resetting. And myself too, where I'll give it up. I gave it up for 100 days once. It was amazing. That was through COVID. Holy crap. And, luckily
I mean, back in that time, I was like, yeah, you do you. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I've done vacations with you guys where you're all drinking and I'm like sipping my Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, and I never thought ever. I mean, I had this girl tell me one time, like, oh yeah, I'm giving up alcohol for a year. And I was like, oh.
You're doing
what? What
Yep.
the hell?
But so was there something that happened that you can put your finger on that flipped that switch for you? Or is there something that you can share that could be helpful?
I think, around the time I was going through a pretty vicious court battle, and I was super, super miserable. But in the same sense, I was working out and I was meditating and I was doing things that I needed to do to take care of myself, but I was still miserable.
Right.
So the month of August 2020 was a terrible party month for me. My daughter had to start leaving for 9 days a month. I had all this freedom, and I was partying, and I was doing really just not good things for my future, and I was feeling like shit all the time. And then it got to the point where there was one day where I woke up, I was so hungover, I went to work, I was like, I don't want to drink anymore. And then that night I drank, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, this is not okay. And I think for me, it's all or nothing. So there's no, I've tried the black and the gray line with booze. It doesn't work for me.
Yep.
So I have to cut it out of my life completely. But I think that, honestly, I'll say this till I die, I think my grandfather had a really big part of it. He passed away around the time that I gave up alcohol. And
he was 35 years sober.
Yeah, and one day I woke up and I was just done. And I can't really explain it to anybody. I just knew that I wanted to have a better life, and I knew that I wanted to grow deeper in my spirituality, and I knew that alcohol would not get me there.
Not get you there. So in that respect, it's non-physical help, right? That non-physical support that we get from passed away loved ones or angels or whatever you want to call it steps back and can help you just like end a chapter.
Yeah.
And he actually did the same thing, Poppy. This was my husband's dad. He because he told me the story about it and how he had a realization. He was like in some car with some homeless, like he had come to this like homeless camp and he was drinking, and he had this realization that if he didn't change, if he didn't stop completely, that he was going to end up being one of those homeless people.
Right.
So having that realization, it was like, it's like the fork in the road, right? You make the decision that it's this way or this way. And for you, I think it was the same situation, very similar.
And I don't think I really planned on doing it forever, but every time that I've done it in the past, I put a 30 or 60 day limit on it. Whereas this time I didn't put a limit on it. I was like, I'm done with this for a while. And then it gets to the point when you're on an alcohol-free journey where you're like, holy shit.
Like you just get higher and
this
higher.
This is amazing.
And higher,
And that's always how it was when I took 30 days off.
Yeah.
I'd say, this is so amazing. I love life. I'm feeling so good. But it just was that chain around my ankles that I just could not let go of. And a lot of that is people around me or fear of missing out on things or whatever. And I just had to be done with that and be like, my life's going to be better than this. And
I don't think you really know the benefit of an alcohol-free experience unless you're like 90 days. Like something happens, and they've said this in the groups, like something happens
Yes.
at that 90-day mark where it kind of loses its attention, appeal. Yeah, for sure.
And I think education too, education in what it actually does to your body, mind, and spirit has been really crucial in my recovery. I mean, I'm almost a year sober. I have not had cravings, temptations. In the beginning, I was on the alcohol-free wine just because of the, I just wanted
just that sensation, right? Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actually wanting to ingest the poison, I have not been there, because I made the decision. I stuck to it. I decided I want a better life. And
wow, that's huge. Like making that decision, right?
Yeah,
Not being wishy-washy with your energy.
You can't be wishy-washy. Yeah. Like if you want to stop drinking, make the decision. Say this is no longer serving me. And then
once you made the decision, you attracted people that were sober.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes, it's insane. I started going to a gym. I bought a Groupon because I was like, well, what am I going to do now?
Right?
My daughter was leaving, and I got a gym Groupon, and I've met so many amazing sober people through this gym, and continue to meet amazing sober people every single day, because that's the frequency that I now put out into the world. And the cool thing is that I really haven't even lost that many friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're kind of inspiring to people, I think.
Exactly. Because I have changed so drastically, and like my glow up is so real, that people do want to follow. And I do inspire people. And that's, if I can inspire one person a day to be alcohol free, I'm happy.
Absolutely. So you're working on some stuff. Share what you're working on.
Right now, AA has never been my jam. I don't hate AA. I've been to many different meetings, but I think that there are different methods of recovery. And so over the last year, I've gone through, I think I kind of put myself into isolation for a while out in California. I have times where my daughter leaves for 2 weeks, so I'm able to really focus on my own healing. And so through that, I have learned different methods and coping mechanisms, healthy coping mechanisms for being alcohol free. And I am creating a 90-day course. It's called Flawless Freedom from Alcohol. And this will be just a 90-day course to help hold people accountable, whether you're looking for a 3-month break to just see how you like it, or you're looking to give up alcohol forever. It's going to be teachings and journal entries and education all on what this stuff actually does to our body, mind, and spirit, what we can do in terms of self-care, what we can do to face our trauma, what we can do to deal with our emotions. So it's really exciting. I've been working on it for so long. And I'm not rushing it, because it comes from my heart. And I've been through it, so I'm creating it through life experience, which is really special.
Which is important. It really is. To be able to speak to something, you really have to live through it. And I think that's part of valuing our journeys, is that when we do go through stuff, when we do go through challenges and contrast, that what we're doing is we're gathering a bunch of information that we can share with other people when we're ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I do think that you're a fast traveler. So to be able to shine that light back at other people and give them the confidence and belief in themselves because you've done it, you really can't speak to things that you haven't lived through.
And I thought it was impossible.
Right.
I thought that I would never live my life without alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I'm almost a year alcohol free is mind blowing to me to this day, because I never even had interest in doing it.
Right.
So, and I think too, I never really knew what I wanted to do with my life. And then going through this and kind of having that awakening of like, this is something really important that can really help people, especially because everybody questions their relationship with alcohol at least one time in their life.
Right.
So just to be able to offer accountability and support to people is really important, and really brings me a lot of joy when people message me and say, hey, I'm interested in living an alcohol-free life. That's like, yes, like, yes, it makes me so happy, because I know how much joy,
how much goodness is
involved.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, so you're a mom, and how old is your daughter?
She'll be 4 in
the light of our lives.
She'll be 4 in a month. Oh my gosh.
I had no idea what it was going to be like, but good Lord, it has topped every scale of my experience for sure. So, so so now that you're so aware and you know how to deal with emotions, I think a lot of our issue with you growing up was that you had you were very emotional. Like, you feel things differently. You feel things differently than any one of your sisters. You feel them at more of an intense level, and I do think that your daughter is similar. Um, but I think our challenge was you also really like to be in control. Like, you like to be, you're a powerful person. You came in as a powerful creator. And we didn't know any of this when you were growing up. We were in the Catholic Church. We were doing what we were supposed to be doing. And it wasn't until we started to hear about, universal law and law of attraction, and actually saw some people, I want to call them like people that had wisdom about this energetic relationship, that we realized, oh, it's all power and control. Like, when I yell at you guys, or I try to discipline you, or we take away your phone, that was all us trying to get power back from someone who was so powerful that she would disrupt the whole family. So when it comes to like mothering your daughter, where do you go in her little emotional field, and like, how do you deal with that? Because I think there's a lot of people, that have this emotional field, and we don't think it's good, like the crying, the whining, whatever. We think it's like they need to just shut up and sit down, or they need to stop crying. Like, how many times do you tell our kids, like, stop crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about? That was like my mom saying all the time. So like, how do you honor her little emotions without letting her rule the roost, even though she does kind of rule the roost? I've seen you become more of I guess a guide to her, where you're not trying to take her power away, because
Right.
there's a balance in that for sure.
I think number one is that I meditate. So if I take care of myself, then I can give to her more freely and openly. And so that is important for me, to meditate and also keep up on my fitness, because if I have endorphins going and my mind is clear, then it's easier for me to deal with her emotions, but also having compassion for what she's going through, and also realizing that her emotions are just her not knowing how to express herself. And
Wow, that could be said for anybody, huh?
yeah, I mean,
that's get that.
That's exactly. I mean, when someone's showing heavy emotion, they just don't know how to channel
they
that
didn't know
energy
how to
correctly.
manage it. They were never taught how to manage it.
And so, something really big that I've done with her is, there's this song, and it says, when you feel so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. And she does it, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it totally calms her down. But in terms of, us, it's just taking deep breaths and getting to that point. But also, a huge thing that I've noticed with Kinsley Jane is that if my energy is off, her energy is off.
I've seen it so many times.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
well, you need to clean your shit up.
Literally, I mean, it's like if I'm PMSing,
yeah,
baby girl is too. And so just really being aware of that, because when the day's really hard and I can't get it together, it's most of the time it's me.
Yeah.
And so once I can either take a nap and stop that momentum and wake up to something new, or meditate, or do what I need to do to make myself go for a run, or whatever I need to do, like, I have the ability to shift her mood. And I literally have rough mornings and good nights.
Yeah.
And that's all in the power of my choice and how I decide to handle that. And I don't always have good days. So sometimes it takes longer than other times. But it's definitely, I've gotten definitely mastered at it in the last few months.
Yeah. And yet just having that awareness, and then, watching the energy. I love to watch energy. It's one of my favorite things that I've just kind of stumbled upon recently, is just like pulling yourself above the situation and being like, okay, like having an assessment instead of being in the chaos, just like pulling back and going, okay, what's happening right here? And
yeah, like,
where am I responsible for this? That
right.
sort of thing.
And I think the hardest thing is her going back and forth between houses, because it does take me a while to get her energy back to my energy. Her dad's energy is very different from my energy. So it takes, a little while for her to get back to herself, I feel. So just being patient and compassionate with that, and working through it, and just making sure, for one, she's always fed, because if she's not fed, then
she's a beast.
She's
a beast.
hangry.
Yeah. I'm like, you need food or you need a nap.
Exactly.
That's usually her only issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so for our listeners that do not know, Kaylee's daughter goes to her dad's in Arizona 2 weeks out of the month. So she's here for 2 weeks and then she's there for 2 weeks. And that was something that came down from a court order that we at first were, the wind was taken out of our sails, and it's been interesting. I'm not going to say that it's great, but it's worked so far, and we don't know what the future is going to bring, but we sure do know what we want. So
Right.
that's super important, and you've done a really good job of just focusing on that and letting all this desire and all the contrast of her going and missing her mom and you missing her, we know that that's creating, and we know
Right.
that the manifestation that we want to happen, which is really just for everybody to be happy and healthy and to have good relationships. That's really what the base of everything that we want. And, for this little girl to be surrounded with love. That's
right.
it.
And this was definitely one of the biggest circumstances where we had to be like, we are not in control right now. And so to sit here and try to predict what will happen in the future is the future is so unknown. We have no idea what's going to happen. So to sit here and say that, we know what's going to manifest is not true, but we keep our vision clear, and we, when she leaves, I work on myself, I work on my course, I do what I need to do to be a present and good mother for her, so that when I have her, I can spend time with her for 2 weeks. And just knowing as things line up more for me here, eventually it will line up exactly how it should, and we have no idea what that will look like. So we're not even going to try to predict it, because at this point anything could happen.
It's true. And this is another thing that I think I shared on my last podcast about watching the energy. It's like we get ahead of ourselves, we get into the future, we have all these worries and anxieties, like what if this happens and what if this happens. And if we could just stop, because that sucks all the joy out of our lives. If we could just stop and say, well, I know what I want, I know how I want to feel, and I know that my energy creates, and I know that my strong desire and contrast creates even more. That's all we need to do. And then the rest of it is like, it's up to the universe. It's like, okay, co-create with me. This is what I want. And I have full faith in my manifestation abilities, because you have been shown, Jesus, this child, you have been shown time and time again. Like it blows my mind. Sometimes I sit here and go, she's like a witch. Like it's like witchcraft
literally,
at this point,
Literally, it's insane. Like, I'm going to write a book because there's just so much to say. But I think with the Kinsley situation was I really had to take a step back and become aware, because in the beginning I went into the situation like that would never happen to me. It will all work in my favor because I am a powerful creator. So then when we got the court order back and it was completely different than we could have ever expected, that was like, whoa, like, are you kidding me? And that's
so did you have moments where you were like, I'm not a good manifester? I'm sure you went through that, right?
When I got the court order back, I collapsed on the floor in a ball and could not stop sobbing, and she had to immediately come. And we were really deep into our Joe Dispenza studies at this time, and thank God I was already alcohol free at this time. And so, like, with the help of my mom, we just had to kind of be like, this is not our reality. This is a piece of paper, and this will manifest in a way that it's supposed to. So I have to take this 2 weeks that I have, even though it seems like the end of the world. Like, oh my God, my baby girl is going to be away from me for 2 weeks a month.
Tough.
Like, this is unimaginable pain. Like, it was horrible. But to be able to take a step back and say, this isn't my reality. This will work out somehow, some way. This will work in my favor. It looks awful right now, but it's really leading to something better. That has been life-changing.
God, that's huge.
Because I've been able to take this 2 weeks to work towards my future. So that I can have this fall into place the way that it's supposed to.
Absolutely. So we'll give you guys a little backstory on what happened. So Kaylee has forever wanted to move to California since we came here. I don't know if you wanted to live here before that, but she was the first one who moved out west right after high school. Were you like 18, 19?
Yeah.
So she had visited a friend in Arizona, and she was like, I'm going, like, screw this. Like, I want to get out of Connecticut. So she moved to Arizona, and then we started this whole thing with California. And when we came here, she's wanted to live here. And it didn't really look like it was going to happen. I mean, we had talked about it. We were hoping, wishing, praying kind of a thing. And then when COVID, and then you broke up with Kinsley's dad.
Kinsley's dad never wanted to move here,
right.
So that's why it couldn't happen.
Right. That was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then so then when COVID happened, I mean, now you're single there, and that wasn't really great. But
we
again,
co-parented for a year.
You're sharing her
in Arizona.
What are you going to do? Right. Mm-hmm. And then when COVID hit, it was like every sign was on the wall. Get the hell out of here. Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, I was like, it was so unknown what was going to happen. And
true.
We didn't know if the borders were going to close or what was going to happen or how serious this was going to be. And at first it wasn't even a forever thing.
Right.
That I was coming out here to be here forever.
Right.
I was coming out here to be with my family during a pandemic with my child as a single mom where I have support. And once I got here, everything started lining up in terms of
crazy.
If I'm going to start over new after the pandemic, why am I going to go back somewhere where I don't want to be?
Right.
And for once in my life, I had to be a little selfish because this has been my dream. And I knew that I would thrive as a human being in where I wanted to be.
Right.
And if I never moved to California, I would have never gotten alcohol free.
Right. Oh, boom. Yeah, for sure.
I had to get in a better high vibe
it's a different
place.
Vibration.
I had to be in isolation around people that I would normally be around.
Yep.
And I had to live my dream, and living my dream has motivated me to be better. and to live up to my full potential in my spirituality and in my life.
Wow, if that's not a testimony to going after your dreams.
Seriously. I mean, if I could have stuck around and been like, this is what's best for my daughter, but what's best for my daughter is that her mom is happy and thriving.
True.
So, and she's happy and thriving when she's here. She is a freaking Cali girl.
She is a total beach baby.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then you get here and you move in with us. Mm-hmm. Not move in. I mean, you were just coming to stay, and we didn't really know when that was going to end. I mean, it was just such an unsure time for everybody. So glad that's over.
Lived here for about a month.
Yeah, it was about a month. And that was intense. Like, that was straight up very COVID, intense. Can't leave the house kind of a thing. Not leaving the house, just us with the two. She was what, 2.5?
Yep, drinking a lot. I was drinking a lot because it was COVID.
And I wasn't. I was sober.
Yeah.
Sober Sally over here. Mm-hmm. So, which I'm so thankful for, because I think a lot of people went dark during COVID, and I was able to keep myself up, I believe, because I was alcohol free. Mm-hmm. So then what happened? So then we're like, okay, Kaylee's staying. Like, it was pretty sure you were going to stay. You got no job. So, and it was becoming very clear that living in our house was not, it wasn't going to keep going. Like, it
got a little unbearable.
Yeah, we've got teenagers and cats that lunge at Kinsley. It was just intense. So never something that you wanted to do as far as like living with us and
well, my dog was with a dog sitter.
Oh,
my
true.
Dog is very important to me, and I was a month in at this point, so it was getting to the point where it's like, I need to get my dog, I need to get back into my own space. I need to do. So I started looking for apartments, and that's when I made the decision that I was moving to California. So I started looking for apartments, but I was like unsure that I would be able to afford an apartment in California.
You had no job.
I had no job. I was on Arizona unemployment, and I was like not sure how. Obviously, my dad had my back. We weren't going to worry about it. Everything was going to work out. So I found a perfect apartment that I loved, and it was expensive, and they wanted to charge me all this crazy money because my credit wasn't great and I was unemployed. And we were about to go for it because it was desperate. We were pretty just ready to get something.
Yep.
And we made plans for me to go back to Arizona and get all my stuff. I was going to go to my apartment, get all my stuff, move into this apartment. And the day that I was going to make a decision to move into this apartment, my dad got a call from a former client who said that in the beginning of COVID, they had inherited a home from their neighbor who had no other family to give it to, a 3-bedroom house in Mission Viejo. And he offered it to Kinsley and I and Mavis for $100 a month. A 3-bedroom house in Orange County.
It was crazy. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen.
And when stuff like that happens, it's like, I am making the right decision.
Yeah.
I am supposed to be here. This is all lining
Right.
up for me perfectly.
Right.
So I know that this decision is right for me.
And I have to give some credit to your dad because he is amazing at following his inspirations. And he had actually reached out to this gentleman because he was supposed to renovate that house. So he knew it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
So he had reached out and just said, hey, what are you guys doing with that house? And they couldn't do anything with it at the time because it was in probate. So he said, it's empty. So if you guys want to, it was just, and he was such a beautiful man, like such a good man. He ended up extending your stay a little bit and helping you out.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for about 3 months that I was going to live there. And I ended up staying for about 6 months. He extended it multiple times. I was paying this man and woman, because his wife too,
yeah, sweethearts,
$100 a month to live in a 3-bedroom house with a huge backyard in Mission Viejo.
That was a freaking miracle.
It was
a freaking miracle.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. So then you moved into your apartment that you're in now. And that was still a little dicey because you did not go back to work. So your decision to not go back to work.
I did go back to work.
Oh, you did?
I went back to work at a restaurant.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And I was very unhappy. And it was just an environment that I did not want to be in any longer because of my life decisions, and just wasn't supporting the life that I was trying to create.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to work, and then in November, moved into my new apartment, which was also another manifestation. I mean, it was so easy. I got into this apartment with like 0 down payment and half off first rent. So I moved into an $1,800 apartment for $800 in total.
Yep.
And then the next month they had some weird rent special where it was half off. So then the second month I paid $800 too. And it was so wild. And then in November, my job shut down again. And for me, already being done with that,
blessings.
It was such a sign for me that I had to move on to something bigger and better.
Yeah.
So that's when I started my alcohol-free coaching stuff and really just started to focus on that and living in my joy and living in my alignment and my freedom has been pretty freaking liberating.
Yeah, and you've kind of had one manifestation after another as far as just keeping yourself in flow. And it's really easy when you're in a situation and you don't have that weekly flow and you don't have that, everybody thinks like, oh, you need to have a job and you need to work 9 to 5. And like, that's the societal programming, right? But there's other ways to create income now that is so much easier. And that's the flow that we're beginning to really understand is being in a flow of energy where you're not working so hard, that you're living in a frequency of abundance. So abundance comes.
Right.
And it just feels, it's a different way to live.
That's been the hardest. I think money manifesting has been the hardest thing to grasp.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that you call me about the most.
Oh, man.
Like flipping out about. And I'm like, girlfriend, are you kidding? Like, are you serious? I remember something happened to you. I don't remember. Oh, when you got rental assistance. So she got rental assistance after this like whole thing happened.
Yeah, my job shut down. I was like freaking out. I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. My rent's $1,800 a month. So it's, it's
insane
a lot.
It's
insane
for a 1 bedroom, for a 1.5 bedroom.
For a single mom.
Yeah.
And I applied this random rent assistance program and they paid my rent from December to March.
Just when that happened, I said to you, okay, you're never calling me again with this stuff.
Seriously.
Like you can't anymore because you have way too much evidence that's in favor of everything always working out for you. So we still have these moments of fear and anxiety, and it's fine. I'm your life coach, so whatever. But how long is it going to take before it finally clicks? Which I think you're getting there for sure.
Yeah.
Where it finally clicks and you go, okay, all right. And just take a step back instead of flipping out.
Well, it's like, okay, all right.
Yep.
Everything's always working out for me. So I just need to live in the present and stop freaking out about the future, because at any point in time, like I say this to like my friends all the time, like, yeah, I'll just like get some crazy inheritance or something, or,
I remember you putting that out there, like, I want to live somewhere rent free. And I was like, okay, Kaylee.
Right?
Like, I haven't figured that out yet, Kaylee, so I don't know how you're going to.
All I kept saying was, if I could just live somewhere rent-free, I would be good.
I could do it.
I would be good. I could do it.
Who
I could do it.
Right?
And when I moved to California, it was like, how in the hell will I pay $1,800 a month in rent? I had no idea but I just had faith. And then I paid $100 a month, and then my rent was taken care of.
And how much were you paying in Arizona? So we can give people like a
$900
base.
a month.
All right. So this is for all of you guys who are thinking that you want to move somewhere and it's impossible because the income is, or the rents are too much or the houses are too much, whatever. It's like, if you do it, it's an up level. It's an up level. And it's frightening. It's frightening. Up leveling is not for the weak. Like, it's definitely scary. But when you do it, like I've used the example of the house that we lived in before this one, which I adore this house. I'm so in love with this house. This house was $600 more than we were paying in our other house. Hated that other house. I just moved in there because it wasn't an apartment, and it was an okay house. It was fine, but I just never loved it. And we didn't get along with the landlady. So when we moved into this house, I remember working with my energy healer and her saying, you're going to have to up level. Like, to get what you want, you're going to have to up level. And I was like, we're having trouble paying this rent. You want me to go $500 more? We've never had trouble paying rent in this house. It's been
like just the energy being reciprocated.
Yep.
I think back on it when I split rent with Kinsley's dad. I was paying $500 a month, and I struggled so hard. I would reach out to you guys all the time for money. I was stressing, and then I moved out on my own, and I worked really, really, really hard, and I paid my rent, and you
were doing okay for a little while there. You were banking.
I was doing okay, but honestly, being unemployed, I've done better than any job I've ever had. Well, and I think a lot of that is
frequency, right? Frequency, like not having to do something that you hate.
Exactly. Not feeling any type of resistance in my life ever, because I am in control. I'm in control over my emotions. I'm in control over the people that I hang out with. I'm in control of the people that I surround myself with. And especially working in a restaurant environment, it is very low vibe. No matter what restaurant that you're in, it's stress. It's stress and low vibe. And you take, again, in that situation, you take on a lot of other people's energy. There's no way to get out of a serving shift feeling rejuvenated.
Right.
And that is why most people get out of their serving shift they go drink. Yeah. Because you're so freaking done, and you're so tired of other people's energy. And so when I think about going back to something like that, it's like, that's like almost last resort for me, because I'm past that. And I know that I'm better than that. Not that working in a restaurant, I did it for 10 years. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great money.
No, you made great money for
great money. And, and it's fun, and it's social. And if I had to go back to work, I would do that.
I mean, it really makes the most sense if you're going to do like hours for dollars.
Right.
It really
Exactly.
So one thing I wanted to circle back to, because when we were talking about how you're kind of in this flow now of everything working out for you, you can't really get to that part of your life. You can't really get to that kind of position and vibration if you've got emotions underneath that are screwing with it. So because you've done so much work, and because I've done so much work, that we can be in this position and speak to this, because we've done so much healing. And also, we have so much faith. And you don't really have faith until your faith has been tested. Like, that's what grows the muscle of faith, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I even said something to my boyfriend this morning. I said, I have not always been this way. Like, I was a freaking psycho. Like, I had zero control over my emotions. I would feel something, I would act on it right away. I'm still guilty of this, especially around my period. But like, when we can really be conscious of what's coming to the surface and working through it before projecting it on other people, or saying, why do I feel this way? What is this doing to trigger me?
Where is my stuff in this?
Where is my stuff in this? Because it's like, it's always you. Has been so helpful in not only my life, but like my co-parenting relationship and all my relationships. Because if I'm grounded and whole and feeling good within my own being, then I'm able to have compassion and give fully to other people, whether they're being nice or not.
Yeah. And that you're going to see that reflection in every relationship. So I'm going to talk about co-parenting, because I do have quite a few people that listen to this that co-parent, and quite a few women that I've seen recently. Actually, I've seen one woman recently on my Facebook who really shifted her relationship with her her baby dad, I guess we'll call it. So in the beginning, like, there was contention in that relationship, and it was really challenging. And you guys definitely had a relationship of trigger. Like, you definitely triggered each other. And when you first came here, there was a big block in that relationship. So was there a moment where you like made a decision about that, or did it kind of just shift as you shifted?
I think one of the biggest realizations that I've had through my alcohol-free journey is that the reason why my relationships with people has failed is because I was so far from myself that I didn't know how to love anybody else. And I'll say that in even terms of my relationship with him, and why our relationship failed is because I was so far from knowing who I was or from my own happiness that I didn't even,
like, you were looking to him
to fill that. And co-parenting is hard. It's never going to be easy because this little human is part of the both of you. But adding resistance and anger does nothing besides make the child feel alienated and make the child feel like they can't be themselves in the presence of the other parent.
Yeah.
If they're trying to, if I call Kinsley and she would be like standoffish, like she didn't want to talk to me because of him.
Right.
And no child should ever have to go through that.
Yeah.
I was raised with two loving parents, so it breaks my heart, for one, that she doesn't get that, but for two, that there was also so much conflict and anger. But when I was drinking and when my emotions were masked and stuff like that, I couldn't get it under control. I was so angry, I was so hurt. And it really took, obviously, meditating and working through my own trauma and realizing this is why our relationship went wrong, and this is my fault, and like these are my faults.
Right.
So I can only apologize for what I can apologize for, and him and I, just from me apologizing, have gotten really compassionate and caring towards each other, because you love that person.
Sure you did. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't really have a choice, right?
Yeah, you love that person, and anger and resentment and hate gets so far in the middle of that. But when you take a step back and realize that it is all just love, and you created that child from love, and life is so much easier.
So much easier
when you can get along.
Yeah.
The hate and the anger and the resentment, it's not worth it. And sometimes you have to swallow your pride and say, hey, look, I sat down with him and his girlfriend in a car, and I said, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done with the anger. I'm done with the hurt. I'm so sorry for everything that I've put you through in the past, but that was my own shit. Like, I've been working through this.
Yeah.
And I want us to be on the same page, because I want us to be good people for Kinsley. And all that matters is her. And all that matters is her happiness and knowing that she's cared for and loved.
Right.
And it really, really shifted everything in so many different ways.
It's like miraculous. Like, if you guys could have seen it, their relationship was so, I mean, that's why it came down to a court order, because you guys couldn't get on the same page about anything.
No.
And I think that he had a lot of fears that you were taking her away from him, which was never, ever any of our intentions, because, I think that we all really value that Kinsley has a dad that loves her. And what we want is for her to have the most love possible in her life. And when we see her, being loved by somebody else, like, that's never anything that we're going to take away from her. Having your dad in your life is super important. We have, we value that. So that was never the intention. And then to watch to watch the whole shift was so fascinating. And I remember you calling me, and it's like, you did this. So if you're struggling in a co-parenting relationship, like, you've got to go within, and you got to look at where your low self-confidence is, where your powerlessness is, because that was a big piece for both of you, I think, was the powerlessness of it all. It's like, now you've got this being that you both created walking outside of you, and it's like, who gets her? Especially wanting to live in different states, that's a real challenge.
And you could say that I've heard many different females say that they could never get on the same page with that person, but that's really just a limiting belief, because you'd be really surprised what happens when you get vulnerable and when you get compassionate with someone.
That was the key. Like, you have always had challenges being vulnerable. So for you to open yourself up was a huge step, I think, in your
And
evolution.
him and I mean, we dated for almost 5 years. We were never able to communicate. So now seeing us, like, we had a great conversation the other day, and it's just like seeing us be like, okay, this is how I feel about this. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is how I feel about this. And then we end the conversation with, okay, thank you. Have a great day. It's like, whoa.
How did
like,
that happen?
Wait, is this you? Am I talking to the same person?
Where's my magic wand? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really just being calm and just not lashing out and being like, well, no, this is how
reactive.
I feel. Reactive. Yeah, exactly. So
because you're never going to get anything when you're in that reactive mode. We always say in our house, it's not a teaching moment,
right?
Because when we're both on the defense, like, no one's going to win. You're in a stalemate, So in order for you to shift the energy, you had to come at it from a different perspective. So what would you say to women? Because I feel like this is really helpful. What would you say to women who are in a position where, let's say they have more momentum than you do. Let's say they've been dealing with this for, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, something like that. What would you say to them as far as like what they can do to start to shift the relationship?
Meditate.
See, and people, I'm not making this shit up. I got backup right here.
Yeah, you got to meditate. You got to go within.
Quiet that mind, create that space, right?
Right, because if you don't, then triggers are a lot stronger, and it's a lot easier to work to act upon those triggers. So I would say meditate and go within and figure out what your crap is in this situation. And then I would sit down and be really vulnerable. And I understand that some guys aren't open to that, but like, if you really go towards the situation with compassion and vulnerability and say, hey, look, this is where we're at. We share this kid together. I want this to be easy. I want to be on the same page. So what can we do to work together? Or what can I do for you to get to a better place? Sometimes if you ask someone, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
So that we can be on the same page, then that's life-changing, because they're like, oh, well, you care? You care about what I need and what I want? Okay, cool.
And I would definitely say that you wrapped a different story around Kinsley's dad, because I think, it wasn't a position where you felt like he was going to do this. I think it surprised you that you did this work and it reflected so quickly with somebody that you've had trouble communicating with your whole relationship. This is the best communication you guys have ever had.
Well, and to finally take a step back, I mean, we never even discussed why we broke up because we were so angry. So to be able to say to him, like, hey, look, our relationship had a lot of issues because I was so far from myself that I didn't know how to love anybody else.
Right. Taking that personal responsibility.
For him to be like, well, damn.
Well, and then all of a sudden he's going to go, wait, you're not blaming me anymore?
Right.
So that opens
and then
so much.
Exactly. And then he said, well, this was my part in that.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most, this technically in AA, they call it making your amends.
Right.
So I had a screaming intuition one day to call him and make my amends.
Right.
And so he was so amazing and so receptive to it. And we had such a good talk about it. And I felt 10,000 weights lift off my shoulders, because the one person that could make me angry and the one person that I had resentment towards, it was gone.
Right.
And for once, I was free.
How freeing is that?
I was free. Like, it was...
That's true. That's true freedom.
The most amazing feeling that I've ever felt. Like, just to finally let go of any and all anger. It was amazing.
That's incredible. All right, so let's just give a few last thoughts about, you've got people out here that are listening to the show that obviously are into personal development. They want to better their lives. Like, what would you say are the keys to, like in a nugget, like what are the keys to really transforming a life and living more joy?
Meditation.
Number one, people.
Number one, meditation. Number two, staying clear to your vision. Number three, setting boundaries for yourself and sticking to them. Number four, removing toxic blocks, aka alcohol. If you want to grow in your spirituality, if you want to be whole within your body and mind, I'm sorry, I tried it for a long time. You cannot do it with alcohol.
Yeah.
It takes 10 days to detox one drink. So if you think about that, you're always detoxing alcohol if you're a weekend drinker. And it just doesn't work. Like I said, I tried the gray area. And when I finally let that go is when I became a magnet for miracles.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So how can people get in touch with you?
They can follow me on Instagram
and
at
find your program.
Alcohol Free Abundance.
Alcohol Free Abundance.
So I also have a Facebook page you can go at Alcohol Free Abundance. Or my Instagram is where I do most of my business stuff. So
okay, and I'll put that in the show notes so that they can follow you. And I mean, follow for inspiration, because it's not just about being alcohol free. It's about living, your best intention. It's about living your best
mindfulness.
life.
It's mindfulness, and my course is not. My course has education. My course has an entire module on meditation and mindfulness. So we're going to go super deep into that if you're having trouble meditating. And then emotional stuff, emotional triggers, how to feel. You got to feel to heal. So we go into that and just everything that it takes to work through those blocks to be able to live in freedom and to just feel this amazing, joyous existence all the time.
I love it. True freedom. That's true freedom, people. All right. Well, we are so glad that you are with us, and we love you all.
Yay!
Peace.
Bye.